Welcome to another episode of Tandaza Mkeka.
And we are delighted to have again 2 guests. And we're going to be discussing delayed pregnancies, mature motherhood, everything that has to do with the fact that we have had children later on in life by choice or by circumstance. So I'm delighted to have again Dr. Maggie Gitu, and with us, a new general badass. That's what I was told to call you. A general badass everything. But Dr. Kabugo Kamau, who is a pharmacist, entrepreneur, and general badass. Is that how I was supposed to introduce you?
I think that's what you were told.
That's what I was told, and I think I've done a good job. But I would like to hear more about who you are, and so we're going to get into that so that we can discuss generally what mature motherhood looks like. And actually, you can start by saying, do you even like being called a mature mother?
No.
What does that look like? Are we talking to you out of context? Like what is mature motherhood? Honestly, so before we even get into that, introduce yourself to the people who are listening. Tell us about you, just a bit.
Well, I think you did a good job. I am Kabugo Kamau, doctor. I am a pharmacist. I am a mother of 2 boys. I am an entrepreneur. I do a lot of things. That's why I'm a general badass.
Love
it. Yeah, and I am a co-parent of those 2 boys.
Dr. Maggie Gitu, thank you for gracing our podcast again. So do you want to go through the introduction again?
Actually, what I want to say is that I am honored. Really, I am, to be included. And just one little correction, I am not yet a doctor. I have an MA. Although in the Kenyan course they say doctor, but officially it's important that you know that I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I am a marriage, family, and sex therapist. And I am not a mother yet. And yet I am older. So I am,
You can speak out of that
from that perspective.
Or that perspective,
yes.
Which is fine. So thank you for coming to join us again. But the first question that I asked, and I will ask again, geriatric pregnancies. Let's talk about those. What are those? And how do you feel when you went to the hospital second time? Because I know the first one is older. Please, actually, first tell us how old your kids are.
First of all, let me put it out there that I never wanted any children. It was not a priority for me. It was not on my vision board. Let's put it that way.
First or second?
Both my children have been head-on collisions, egg and sperm. And it's like, what just happened?
Head-on collision, egg and sperm. Like they collided.
And then it's like, oops, what happened? So those are both my kids. Now, the interesting thing is I've had both my kids in the US. And in the US, once you're Black, female, of course, female pregnancy, right? I was pregnant when I was 33 or 34 with my first child. And I was shocked when I was placed in the high risk category because I was Black. It was my first child and I was 30 something. If I was younger, then maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And I was in so much shock. I'm like, how? I'm young. I'm young. But so it was explained. And I knew already that I was considered high risk. And then the second one, I was high. In fact, the first day the doctor saw me, she was like, we're admitting you now. And I said, but I've been having an amazing pregnancy.
Yeah.
I walked in there.
How many months?
Okay, that one has a story behind it because I've always had amenorrhea, which, missing period.
Explain to, okay. Yeah. Some of us don't.
And so I would never know when my period would come. I'd have 2 periods a year. So even as I was pregnant, I was just going about my happy days. So I found out I was pregnant when I was 18 and a half weeks. And so when I went for the ultrasound and, that story I should tell you another day. But it was shocking when the radiology technician was like, Madam! I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. That's not how you break.
Was that his reaction really?
And you know, he when I walked in and I said, I think I'm pregnant. And then actually so much was going on in my life. But anyway, I had walked in. I said, I'm just going to order my own ultrasound. And I walked in there and they said, Daktari, hii mimba ni ya wiki ngapi? I said, hata sijui. Basi hiyo ni mimba ndogo sana. Enda pale ukunywe maji, ndio hiyo bladder ifure, ndio tuone vizuri. So I drank first cup, second cup, third cup. Then they were like, okay, so umekunywa 5. Sawa, kuja basi. So I lay down. And then the ultrasound probe, it barely touched my stomach. And he goes, huyu ni mtoto mkubwa. Hata nimekutesa bure. Angeonekana. Anyway, so that happened.
And honestly, okay, hold on. So you felt like you were pregnant and that's why you went to the hospital for yourself, or what was the story behind?
If anybody remembers, it was about the time I was having the court case with Rusinga about my son's dreadlocks. And that is the day the ruling was coming in. But I decided instead of going to court, I'm just going to go about my regular business. So I had business at the pharmacy board. And I went to the pharmacy board and I parked my car. And then one of my colleagues just passed me and he said, Daktari, hii matiti na hii tumbo hazipelekani. I said, what do you mean? He said, hii matiti na hii tumbo hazipelekani. And I was wearing something like this. So
the audacity.
Yeah. And I was sitting in the car, so he's standing. So he's standing over me like this. So he's looking at my boobs and he's like, I'm like, what do you mean?
I'm so shocked.
Do you know, I just reversed my car out of there. I went to Hurlingham. I bought a pregnancy kit. I bought 2. I went home. I remember the house help opened the door. I just told her, I could just move. Just move. And I went upstairs. I peed on the first one. I'm like, I even saved pee for the second one.
2 sticks.
I just
2 lines.
Out, I took myself to Nairobi Women's. I said, I have to see to believe. And as I was getting that ultrasound and being punished with glasses of water, my lawyer was calling me from court. And I'm like, imagine my fish has become so big now. I have a bigger fish
to fry. I'm not going to do this right now.
I don't care about the dreadlocks. I have a life growing. Yeah, so that now changed even the whole trajectory of that story, because now all of a sudden I am heading to 40 and I have a fetus inside me.
So a first baby, 34. Second baby, 40. Tuseme tu
now,
generally.
Yes, 40.
Yes. Tell me about because I want to hear, because I also want to tell you my experience when I went to the hospital the first time with my second at 36. When they told me to do that test for Down syndrome, and the first thing the doctor told me actually, and I found that very, very annoying. He threw the word geriatric pregnancy at me. So I asked him, what do you mean? Because me, I feel young, I am hot, general badass. What are you trying to tell me, friend?
Nerve.
He says to me, do you know you're born with your eggs? This is a 35-year-old child. And I looked at him and I was like, but me, I'm not 35. I'm not going to birth a 35-year-old child. So what are you trying to say? The conversation was not respectful, is what I was trying to say. When you tell me that I have a 35-year-old egg in my stomach and I have to take a test to determine that my child won't be born with complications, there's a better way to have that conversation. So I want to hear what happened at 40 when you went to the doctor the first time.
Actually, so I had to really quickly find an OB-GYN, and one was recommended, and I went and saw her. She was a very laid-back doctor. In fact, so laid-back. I think her attitude was, it's not your first rodeo. You've had another one, so you know how this goes. So she actually didn't do a very good job with me because of that attitude. So and especially, and we talk about this as healthcare workers, we tend to get poor service from our colleagues because they assume you know. So I would go get an ultrasound and then she'd ask me, so what did it say?
What? Did you read the ultrasound for yourself in December?
And then I generally lose weight during my pregnancies, and this one was concerning. That's why I didn't think I was pregnant, because I wasn't gaining weight, because that's what you expect. So I had concerns that I was losing weight, and she's like, don't worry, it's not a big deal. So I told her, I said, well, I think I'll go have this child in the States, so I need my records and whatever, and she got them for me. But so I had this thing. They always did a glucose test on me to check for gestational diabetes. So I told her, I said, we need to do that test. She's like, you don't need it. You're fine. I said, no. Let's just do it just so that I can feel, better about this situation. And she really, really ignored that request. So when I landed in the States, the first day I went to the doctor, she said, how pregnant? Okay, how far along are we? I said, I only know what the ultrasound says. She's like, so you don't know? Yeah. I said, no. She said, so I'm walking blind? Yeah. I said, so am I. And so she was like, we're admitting you right away. I said, why? She said, geriatric
pregnancy,
high risk, African American, black, female. And then also the fact that it had been 6-7 years between that one and the next one. And I said, no, I feel fine, So she said, well, what we're going to do then is have you come in here every single day. We have to monitor everything, every single day.
From the day
from that first visit. Yeah. So I said, so what are the risks? What is it that you're worried about? I said, you're turning, in fact, by the time I got there, I had already turned 40. So she's like, first of all, we don't know where in Africa you come from. With this baby that we don't even know how old they are and how big they are and whatever. And so one of the doctors asked me, have you ever they did some blood work. And they said, have you had your glucose tolerance test done? I said, no, the doctor in Kenya didn't think it was necessary. They were like, my friend, you're going? I was immediately assigned to a high-risk gestational diabetes OBG.
Oh, what?
And I went and did the test. And sure enough, I had gestational diabetes. No. And what happens with gestational diabetes, or how they explained it, is, so I was getting closer. Remember, we're working blind. We're just going by the ultrasound dates, And so I had to go see the doctor every day. And then the baby also has symptoms. So they pee a lot in the womb. And what happens is now the amniotic fluids increases and increases. So now they start putting pressure on the baby. So one of the days I went and I was having all these Braxton Hicks, and fortunately I was working in a medical center. So I was at work and I called the doctor and I said, I'm kind of feeling something. So it's like, get to the ER now. And I go and I always remember with my first child, my sister used to tell me, God, don't let them put a single IV in you. Because once the IV is in, you're not going anywhere. So I went to the ER and they're doing all these things. And I'm remembering, don't get that IV. Don't get that IV. So I said, don't put an IV in me. Yeah. You can put the belt, monitor all you want to monitor, but you're not hooking me onto anything. So that day the doctor came and he told me, he said, I really need to take that baby out today. And I'm like, but I have another child. Yeah. Who's going to take care of the little one? I mean, he wasn't little, he was 6. But remember, we are in the States and it's just the two of us. Yeah. So he's like, go make arrangements. But tomorrow, this baby has to come out. In fact, you leave tomorrow morning, go straight to now that the head honcho of this high-risk pregnancy that they considered I had. And honestly, I went there, they told me, we don't even care if you have made arrangements. If you haven't made arrangements for your child, we're going to make the arrangements for you. Child Protection Services will pick up your child, but you're going. And I was wheeled into the ER and the baby was cut out. That same, within minutes.
How many months?
Well, do we know? Oh. All we knew is he was cooked. Yeah. He was ready. He was fully baked. Yeah, I mean, by then I was, we were thinking maybe 38 weeks. Yeah, but the way in fact, I felt like I was imprisoned because they were like, you're not leaving. And my son, the younger one, the one I had then was in school. So I'm like, okay, I have to figure out who's going to pick him up, where he's going to go tonight.
And do you think the treatment in the States and here would have been different? Like the treatment here would have been different?
It was already different. You see, even just the way how laissez-faire my OB-GYN here was, and she's like, you've done this before, you know, it's not going to be, which was kind of reassuring. But because I'm a healthcare person myself, I was like, there are some things we are not doing that we should be doing.
I'm actually really glad that you started by saying you never wanted children to begin with, because that's another group of women. I mean, I'm an older mom. I would be considered geriatric, and I don't have children. And the question is always, what's wrong with her? Why doesn't she want children? You'll change your mind. You'll get lonely when you're older. But you don't even know whether I have medical issues. You don't know whether it's just simply not been an option for me, or whether I don't want kids. I mean, and I love that that's the first thing you said, because it just normalizes the truth of the matter, that I can be a mom of 2 boys and love them and remember the drama around their birth with laughter, and also admit that they were not planned joys and blessings. They just popped up.
The sperm and
it was a collision on Ukuru Highway. It just kind of.
That's why they were both surprised.
Yeah.
You see, one was surprising at 18 and a half weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Like cooking
So
quietly.
completely not planned.
Yes.
Not partnered, not anything, just boom.
Yeah,
this happened.
But I also kind of think that part of, so I'm a last born of very many, and I have 6 sisters. I'm the last one.
Wow.
And when you look at my sisters, I think my mom and society in those days put so much fear in us about pregnancy that it was one of the things that you knew once it happens, you're a failure. I think that was the psychology for us. And for me, it was also like, I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy my marriage. I want to be able to travel. And I understand, and I had seen people who had children earlier or whatever, and how it just stagnated for that moment. You know, you can't do so many things. So I had made the decision that I didn't want any children, and I was married, and we were just living the good life. But that fear was, I think, in all of us unconsciously as sisters, because of all of us, all except one, had children over 30. I have a sister who had her first and only child at 40. But it is that fear of God that was put in us about, you bring us a pregnancy here.
Without a man.
Without a man, or with, or even
with a man.
Even with a man, because you can bring the pregnancy with a man, but you haven't finished your college, you haven't achieved much, now you're just getting into the marriage, being dampened by marriage and children. And your children just change everything. So that fear was in us, I believe. And I think even my sister, who had her children in the 20s, she was in her late 20s when she had the first one. But we were paralyzed.
I think that's a generational
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Generational trauma.
Yes. And I think when I, in fact, I used to laugh. I laughed at myself when I was pregnant at 40, because I used to say, how can someone be pregnant at 40? How? And my mom had me when she was 38, so I thought that is the limit. I mean, and she had so many kids. 38, if you have a 38, imagine at umechelewa. Then here I was, crossing my 40th year with a 7-month pregnancy.
And you were second, and how she had her last.
Her last at 38. Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, no wonder we are called geriatric. Because I used to, in fact, I used to look at people having kids at 40. I laugh. I'm like, you're mad.
Like you already escaped.
Yes. And then you're just trapping yourself at the end. And of course, there's all those talks about the risks of having them later. Why are you taking the risk,
But those risks, if you notice, are only talked about now. Because our parents never had children. Well, at their age. They're having children, 6, 7, 8 children. at 30 or 40, you know, like that's your last born, your retirement baby. But ukiona, firstborn wake, she had them at 21. My mom had me at 21. So literally we grew up together. So having children right now at your age is a norm, but it wasn't a norm then. Because if I think about my grandmother, and I don't know, maybe my mom can confirm this, but she said she got married at 14 and they're 8. And, you know, she died very late on in your years. Because if your firstborn is in their 70s, honestly, and you grew up with your kids because you're 90 and your child is 70. Nyote ni mko geriatric together. You're aged. You're old people. So, I mean, like you can see there's such a big gap. And I wanted to ask, like, because I know in myself, when I first had my first child, who is now 14, and my second child, who is now 4, there's a very big difference in how I mothered them throughout that entire time. So I'd like to ask you, and also you can share your experience as not singling you out because you don't have a child. I'm happy but I'm sure you're like, you know, aunties, you have experience in how women mother. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced having a child late and the benefits? Because there are benefits of having a child later on in your years.
So when I had my first one, of course, I was in my 30s. I was in the best shape of my life. I was I was single. I was making lots of money. So my son and I traveled. We were like inseparable. We would go anywhere. I'd work 7 nights, and then I'd be off 7 nights. So I'd ask him, so where do we go next time? And we'd pick somewhere. And he was so badass. I mean, he had his little car suitcase. He knew all the processes. In fact, at security, used to look at guys like, come on now, you know the drill by now, you know. We had amazing times and I had energy. In fact, I remember putting him in the swimming pool when he was 6 months. You know, you had read all the textbooks. You knew what to do, how to do it. The only limitation was we lived in the States and everything had to be planned and structured. And so when I would come to Kenya and we'd spend time here, I mean, the child would just blossom, you know, with the aunties and the cousins and the nannies and then we'd go back to the States and we all go, So that's when I made the decision to move. I said, if for nothing else, let me move to Kenya for this child because he's just stifled in the States. So we moved over here and yes, he flourished but the difference with coming here is now you have all the help you need. So at some point I used to ask, may I please see my child? Please, because we then got this super nanny who understood the assignment. My job is to give you all the peace you can have. So she would take the child and disappear. And I'm thinking, I haven't seen my child in days.
Where's my son?
Can we please meet somewhere? You know. So that was also it had its challenges too, because at some point you think, am I still the mother? Yeah, because this child kids are that way. I mean, whoever is giving them the attention and the love, and then me, I was working. So during the day I'm off, I go to work, I come back. By the time you come home,
everything is sorted. Even
things are sorted. The child is even asleep, you know?
You're like, oh,
and your nanny is like, ta-da, I did it. I'm like, no, I missed my child. Yeah, so that one was different. And then, but we still traveled a lot when we could, and that was our thing. And then I had this other one. So this other one, of course, now the sibling thing of it, now I'm no longer the only one. And that played really rough, you know, but I guess that plays.
It's a 7-year gap.
It's a 6-7 year gap. That one was tough. That one was tough because I remember we would sleep in the same bed. Okay, I had a bassinet for the baby and then I would sleep next to the baby and then my son would sleep in the same bed. And I remember one time, you know, so I'd face the baby because sometimes I just pull him over to breastfeed. And one day my son woke me up in the night and he said, Mommy, I don't understand why you just face that baby. You forget I'm here. Because honestly, I would sleep facing the baby.
Yeah.
So he said, Mommy, put the baby in between us so you will face both of us.
What? Oh my God.
And I had to do, and you know, of course, in my mind, I'm like, oh, you're going to punch him. You're going to kick him. He's like, so be it. But put that baby between us so you don't give me your back.
Yeah. Like, ni kama hamuoni.
Because all of a sudden, the baby takes over. And it's like, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't climb there. Don't do that. You know, and he's like, do you see me?
The husband. When the husband feels left out,
Exactly.
Everything surrounding the partner. But I'm also here. Sometimes men feel like, Kwani, I'm only here to produce the sperm. Now that the baby is here, I've been forgotten. And unfortunately, I think women say, oh, you're an adult, you can take care of yourself, which I don't think is also the right approach. It's that everybody has their space. Like, even if you have 2 kids, they occupy your whole heart, but in 2 different ways. It's not like you get 37% and you get 22.
Exactly.
So everyone has their space.
And you can't assume they know. You have to be intentional about creating that space.
That view, we don't hear it often. Because you're like thinking about it like a single parent with 2 kids who you're looking after. The gap, you know, that people usually say, and now, you know, the challenge to that narrative is you should not be both man and woman for your kids. You should not be both mother and father. You should operate as mother. Don't divide yourself and say, you know, I can be both mother and father to this child. You cannot. So that view that you've just said, where obviously you're thinking, because when you have a 2-partner home, the issue now is that the husband feels left out. We're talking about getting overtouched, oversexed, over what? You're thinking about that. Yeah.
He's undertouched,
undersexed, whatever.
Everything.
But it's about him. You know, he's saying the same things that your son has said. You know, you're giving all your time, your affection, your boobs to this child, and you're leaving me out, you're giving me your back. Because you're co-sleeping or whatever it is that you're doing. But now hearing it from a child, because the child does feel that. Because if you think about it, and even I think about it, if you have a room that you've given to the new child, because everything is going to be about the new child, right? The new baby, the new this, the new that. You'll put the bassinet next to you. And even if you are co-sleeping with your other child, they will move them to the other room and focus on this new child, on baby. And so the reintegration of this children or child needs to be done in a way that they feel valued and loved and whatever. But now, there's no partner. If you have 2 people, so like now me, I'd try and do that more with my older child and my partner and my what, but I wouldn't think too much about, you know, the partner maybe, or one of them will fall short. There'll be a gap. There'll be definitely a gap. So for you, because there was no man, you can literally have a conversation with this child and hear him and feel him. But if there was a man in that bed, you would now have 2 people saying, mom, babe.
And they want your body for different uses. One wants to feed, the other one just wants your boobs for sex, right? And you're like, me, I've even right? Like you're even feeling,
babe. And then mom. I mean, like it's a lot, and I love that view of just having that your son opening your eyes to just understanding,
and just being able to express that,
and you being able to hear it.
Yes, and because there was never that conversation. You know, it's exciting. The baby's in the belly, but we never think about what happens when this baby comes and what's going to change for everybody. We never had that conversation. So even I was just pussyfooting, like, okay, what did you just say? Oh, you need a glass of milk. Okay, hold.
And you're old enough for milk. It's this one who can't talk that I need to. And
I still want to
tell the nanny.
And I still want to do the fun things. I still want to do the fun things with him. So I remember when the baby was small, and so I have to take the baby or wear the baby, right? And we go to this fun fair, and there was this big Ferris wheel, and he's like, "Mommy, let's go." So I'm like, I can't go with the baby.
Yeah.
He told me, give this baby to this one. In fact, to him, when the way he expressed it, it was give this baby away because they are cramping our lifestyle.
Yes.
You know, now we can't go on the Ferris wheel because of this baby, then give it away.
And baby's crying at 10. I mean, I remember telling my mom when my sister and I have a 10-year gap. Yeah, 10 and a half. And when my mom was pregnant, she asked me, like, do you want a brother? Do you want a sister? And externally, I said the Christian thing, whatever God gives us. But actually that night I prayed
For a girl.
For a sister. And I literally told God, I'm begging you. I said, dear Lord. And I was praying quietly so my mom wouldn't hear. So when she was born a girl, I felt like God had done me a solid. Wait until this girl comes home, and everybody wanted to see her. Now, I'd been an only child for 10 years. So the traveling, we used to go coast minimum once a year. And it was like, go have lunch at Golden Beach Hotel, go swim. And I mean, I was mommy's. And if you look at my childhood photos, like Sandak, my mom said my Sandaks were not Kenyan. She got them in Italy for me. I was the first child in my childhood to have Sandaks. They even had a song for me because apparently I used to ringa. Then comes this one, cries all the time. First of all, why are you crying?
The attention.
And I remember one day my mom opened, those sandukus from Juakali. There was a big black one, and she opened it because my sister had gotten yet another bunch of clothes. And I literally cried. And my mom at first looked at me and I could tell the irritation, and I think it clicked for her, like, oh, this is because at first she said, this is for the baby. And then I literally remember seeing like shift for her. She said, and then she called me by my name, my home name, and she said, Mwana is so small, and you see like this, we bought it last week and it doesn't fit. That's why it looks like she has many clothes, but she doesn't have more clothes than you. She's just growing so fast. And you see like now this one, it can't fit her. That's when I was like, oh, they're not just favoring her. And then after that, I don't know whether she told her friends or she did it herself. They would still come see baby, but I started noticing like these like digestive biscuits.
They'll bring things for you as well.
Yes, because I had been like the apple of her eye. And even now, my mom doesn't joke with her kids. But at the time, I felt I'm not a baby anymore. Now I'm the adult. Enda ulete kijiko yaku sijui mtoto to express breast milk to put in her eye. But I don't care.
Those are the things that we actually don't. So we don't say things out loud. My sister is here, but I went through something similar because I have a 10-year gap with me and my sister. And so my mom had kids later, and she got them much later than me. So 10-year gap. And for me, I just checked out. I really, really, really hated having other siblings.
They ruined the math.
They didn't ruin anything about anything. I just didn't want to share my space with other people in my life. I was just like, what are you? Who are you? Why are you here?
And why are you here?
Everything just became, oh, the baby. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. I can't do this. You can't do that. It made me, I just used to feel like, I can't deal. So I checked out. And my checking out made me not even want to hang out with my parents. Like I used to, we are going here. And then now you're feeling, those 1,055,000 bags you have to carry when you have children. I'd be the one to carry them. So me, I used to think every time we want to go somewhere, we'd have to gather and do things that are appropriate for children. And I hated it. So I was like, bro, no.
Nope.
And if my sister was to tell you, we started having a relationship much later in life because me, I was just like, I was not having it. So that was my experience. My parents never tried to do that. What? My mom was like, those are your siblings. That's how you're going to do this. This is how we're going to move. So now with mine, the 14-year gap, the 10-year gap as well, we try. We try to do the explanation because I'm like, and actually,
and then you're a child too.
Exactly.
So
I try to understand.
Baby, like you're still mwana.
Yeah, I try to understand her point of view because she's 14. She's a teenager. If she doesn't want to come with us to places where it's child friendly and appropriate, I feel like sometimes it's fine. I tell her, okay, sawa, and I try to give her her time. But I also try to remember that 14-year-old me who hated, and I say this, I detested hanging out with the children. I was just like, I couldn't understand. I was an only child also.
Yep.
For 11 years of my life.
Yes.
And I'm like, things are changing. I don't understand
And
why you had to go have
overnight.
kids. Like, why? We were dealing. We were good. So for me, it wasn't only the children. It was the man. So she got married and then had kids. And I was like, what the
nerve
fuck,
of
Jesus? Tulikuwa tu poa, sisi wawili. Like, and
Like,
then,
am I not enough for
am I
you?
not enough? And then, like, we had to move out of this. We're living with my grandparents. We moved out of our grandparents' house, new man, new... Bro,
I'm already tired of that. I'm already tired for you. I'm like, no.
And I'm in class 8. I'm trying to be cool, trying to, be a singer. My mom is telling me to a diaper. I'm like, bro, cramping my style. Anyway, so there's
ruining my vibe, man.
Completely ruining so much everything. And now is when, as I was doing this research or thinking about it, I would have loved to have a conversation with my mom. What benefits were there? When you had me, things were difficult. What about now? What opportunities did you have with the second one?
The second one has had the best of me. I've mellowed. I'm a little more in touch with myself. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I'm reparenting myself through him. He has the best of me. I mean, I listen. Like the younger one. I mean, I've done like 3 major whoopings, right? The little one, him is just like, well, we can have a conversation. When I shout, he'll be like, I'm here. I'm right
Mommy,
here.
stop. No, Mommy, stop.
Yeah.
No shouting.
No shouting.
No, stop.
Yeah, and then he's at that age. I mean, if you ever want to see the purest form of life, have an 8-year-old. Yeah. They see the world for what it is, how it is. I was giving a story. I think I posted on Facebook how the other day I went out and stayed out until 6 something in the morning. And he's like, Mom, aren't you in control of yourself? Just because your friends want to stay out late, can't you take yourself home?
Like when the sun went home, you didn't go home.
So many options. And so what I try to do, because I keep telling my kids, we're all little kids, just trying to figure it out. So that's why we never have all the answers and we do what we can. Eh? So first of all, I was telling my older son, I said, can you imagine of all the topics that I was picked to talk about is the geriatric or mature parenting? He says, Mom, you shouldn't take it so negatively because it's a natural process. You're aging, but you're not old to me. You're just old in years, maybe. So it's not that bad of a thing to have to talk about. So he asked me, so what would you rather talk about? I said, I really don't know. But then he told me, he said to tell you when they want to meet the kids of this mature parents, he'll be ready.
He'll be ready. He'll come on and talk to us about how you've been parenting him.
But the little one has had the best. So I was going to tell you about the conscious efforts now I have to make. So number one, I have these 2 boys. I have a partner. All of us are kids trying to find ourselves in this world. And they all want my attention and we all want each other's attention. So a good example is this week. This week, and I was having this conversation with Kimani. I have decided we are traveling next month, but this week I've had 2 days with my partner out of town. Today, for Mother's Day, I'm going out. That's why I have a date with my little boy. And he's lucky. This was his brother's weekend, but his brother got busy, but we were going to go away, me and my older son. So this weekend, we're going to go tonight. We're going to spend a night somewhere and have just mommy and him time. And then when his brother comes home, we're going to have mommy and him time too. But I've just found you just have to carve out those little moments for them, because then nobody wants to feel like they're not a priority. So even if you have those little snippets of you're my priority for the next 48 hours. And now my son, my 8-year-old, is starting to understand. He used to be very, she's mine. But now he's like, oh, okay, so whose turn is it with you now? He's accepted that it's okay. You can go with my brother and I will not bother you. You can go with, he's now at that point. But it has taken a while because he thought he owned me and everything. And then of course his brother is like, I just know he's going to throw a tantrum and then it's gonna, So I could see his brother now getting fed up with him, and withdrawing like you. Because it's like, at the end of the day, he takes the day anyway.
Precedence. Yeah. That child, there's nothing that I can say or do.
So I had to stop. And now the 14-year-old is also a person. And in fact, last weekend when I went to see him in school, his younger brother is like, I want to come. I said, no. He's going to see mommy and mommy only. Deal.
So what's that dynamic with a new partner?
Of course, your partner wants to be the priority.
Yeah.
The child is like you. Imagine we were doing just fine.
Yeah.
Why, what's all this?
I have to deal with the older one and then now I have to deal with this other man.
Exactly. And then even the space. Remember, I have co-slept with my kids all these years. So now out of a week, every Friday night, my son knows I sleep in his room. We talk, we stay at whatever, we talk about anything. But Friday nights are his Friday. But then now yesterday, I didn't want to sleep in his bed because I was like, if I sleep with you, because he kicks, he flips over, he's hot. So I told him, I said, I can't go on set tired. So we'll make it up on Saturday night. That's why we have a date tonight. And now, in fact, we shall go out to a hotel for Mother's Day, because he told me, he was like, I don't want you working on Mother's Day weekend because I want to be with you. So, they express themselves. I keep saying, if you listen to children, they'll tell you. I'm sure you said something to your parents.
Yeah.
It's just, at some point, they don't listen or they don't. But I listen to my children. They say a lot.
These pandemic babies are a different breed. Let me just not lie. I'm sorry.
They're different.
These pandemic babies, they're the ones that are born, these ones, for after pandemic 2019, where, it's like they've come with a new brain. They say things and you look at them. My young daughter knows tumultuous. She knows vases. She knows
but maybe
things.
Because you spend so much time at home with them.
I don't know.
Interaction.
Maybe.
That's
they had more community, more opportunity to practice or to learn or to hear.
I actually got closer to my children with the pandemic.
During the pandemic.
Because I was home all the time.
So they're intelligent. They're very, very intelligent. They say things and they'll make you think. And I just assumed it's all new babies who are born after the pandemic, but I guess it's the interaction.
Lots of people have been talking about it.
You were there every day. Your children got to know you. You got to know them. You watched them. Yeah.
So the pandemic was collective as well. It wasn't like just happening in your house or my house or your house. It was global. So everybody was kind of curious about the same thing, having the same conversation. Which community, right?
Yeah.
This is like, we are all in this together as opposed to,
So let's explore that actually when I come to think about it, because Unmothering was born out of the pandemic, thinking about what we were going through as women during that period. But then as we have been doing Unmothering, I've also therapized and unmothered myself, thinking about my relationship with my mother, thinking about my relationship with my daughters. But then also, you said something interesting, and also an old professor of mine said, the pandemic forced us to sit and actually think about what's happening. Sit within yourself because you couldn't leave. There was a point in time you couldn't leave your house and do anything. So you had to sit and slow down and only focus on one thing. And that made us also now start to think about other things that are going through our life. So if you were to have a breakdown, that's the perfect time you would have had a breakdown because you don't have external noise. You sit down and think, oh, my mother, where? That was not a good relationship. So that period is what I felt would have been like the best time to start thinking about, parenting. So let's talk gentle parenting. What is your take on gentle parenting, and do you actually do it?
Gentle parenting.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you now, my 8-year-old, he has just character developed me. I think also I've mellowed, I'm aging. I'm like, these days it's not, we don't have to get everything right. We don't have to cross all the T's. In fact, his brother is surprised. He's like, you mean she doesn't stress you about your grades? In fact, I mean, I'm like, first of all, I don't agree with any of the nonsense that you're being taught in school. It's irrelevant. And my other son is like, you're kidding me.
You're joking. Where was this mother when I was growing up?
So the question now when it comes to gentle parenting is that, are you becoming your mother when she had you? Like you got the best of your mother.
Yes, I did.
Versus your firstborn.
And I think it worked for me because I was a girl. And girls are not, I was not playful, I was not full of energy and whatever. It worked perfectly for my mom. And yes, so by the time I was 10 or 8, my mom was in her late 40s. We were tight as thieves. We did things together. I could do no wrong. I have never been spanked by my mother. My mother was of World War, I don't know what, with my other siblings. They can't believe it.
What?
You know, they're like, Yani, you have just, she has never touched me. My mom never even pinched me.
What?
But when you hear the stories of my older siblings.
What did you ever say to her what you said to me? Firstborn girls deserve what?
I don't know what I said.
She said to me, firstborn girls, every time someone says to me that I'm a firstborn girl, I feel like giving them a hug and ice cream. Because girl, you've gone through the wars.
Yes.
No,
for you to be able to be where you are right now.
Yeah, my mom. In fact, I remember when I was maybe my 4 or 5 years old. I mean, she was on a warpath. She would beat the living daylights out of anyone who just crossed her. Yeah. And I remember the neighbors used to come and be like, please, that's enough.
Mama Nani, Tulia.
I mean, my mom would whoop them with a broom. Then she moves to an iron cord. It's phrase. She goes, she gets something. She was on a warpath. Me, I
And
was
you just
never
try and
touched.
stay out of her way.
But then also, I was not a crazy child. You know, I was just a cool, calm
None
little
of us
girl
were crazy, but we were still beaten.
No, but imagine with boys. What I'm saying is, boys climb, they throw, they break, they kick,
the electrical
I mean,
outlets.
have you lived in apartments where the boys come and key your car? You know, those things.
And that's what I'm asking about gentle parenting. From there, you're not supposed to whoop them. You're supposed to have a conversation.
This is true. So that is, if that's what you're saying, because I remember my son, the caretaker came and told me, my son I don't know what he had done on the wall. Huh? So we always have conversation. I think the guy was like, now Wambia was talking, you know, they shouldn't leave the house without an adult and whatever. I'm like, now who's going to monitor these children like they are? So I said, imagine if they damage anything, just come and tell me. So he came and told me, they had drawn something somewhere.
On someone's car.
No. On a wall. So in fact, they red soil, They had drawn graffiti with his little friend. So, I mean, we have conversations about it and about, building things, not breaking down things and preserving things. I mean, that's the only way you can do it. In fact, yesterday I was talking, my new landlord where at work came. And they're mubabas, So they are sitting there saying, siku hizi hata hatuchapangi watoto. Mimi sasa nichape kachana kangu aje. Hatuchapangi. Unaambia tu tuongee. So let's talk. It was funny hearing it from somebody outside of my space, circle, saying that. And I mean, these are mubaba. You're thinking, this one must chapa.
This is old school.
Then they said, in fact, at kuchapa is reserved now for mom. And then moms think they don't beat hard.
Yeah.
So we just let the moms beat us. We just talk to the children. Which means it's wider than you think.
Yeah. Something is happening.
Yeah, he said he can never even imagine chapping his children. He can't. But the mom can, and her belief is she doesn't beat hard. In fact, that's why the mom says don't beat them.
Yeah.
Because she imagines the man will beat them harder than she does.
Then
it's like, no, your mama na chapa.
So you'd rather know it.
My mom was ahead of her time because I remember I knew a spanking, like a proper beating, was on the menu. So I knew it was an option. So that's really what helped me. It's just knowing that woman could, like it's on the option. But I do remember being maybe 5 and asking her, Mami, nikikuwa big girl kama, then I mentioned my best friend at the time, utaacha kunichapa. And then she very calmly looked at me and she said, I'll stop beating you when you stop doing things that lead me to beating you. That was the first time I made the connection. there's been a behavior attached. Because prior to that, it was like a game for us. As kids, we would the next day say, "Oh, ulienda kwa kina Bugojan alivunjwa." It was a big joke.
Yeah.
It wasn't like anything.
And even when I've spanked, or not spanked, when I've walked my older son, which I swore I would never do again, I usually have a conversation and be like, do you understand what you did wrong?
What got us
So
there.
you never had that conversation because you didn't make the connection.
There was no connection.
Like, I'm going to beat you because you've done this.
No. It was just like one day I swung. I used to have a habit of swinging on the gate, like a ride. A rao, we used to call it a rao. So I used to run to open the gate for my mom so I could swing it open. And one day the devil whispered to me, there's a whole TV, what do you call it? A wall unit. It has
Swing
two
on
doors
it.
and it's in the house. Say swing on it. My brothers and my sisters, I am here to tell you that it is still in existence in my auntie's house. And every time I walk past it,
You remember that day?
that
It
is
fell on
one
you.
whooping. I swung on it and it broke. And it was black. So when it broke, you could just see the brown wood. And then my mom came in the evening. And then she saw her beautiful, proper wood, door hanging, no hinge. Of course, I had bathed and eaten to try and reduce the beating because you have to do what you can. I got the whooping of my life. My life, like I remember, but I don't know how she whooped me. But I just remember knowing, I know she's gonna kill me. This woman is crazy. But most of it was about conversation. Why? And she used to, when my mom did this sign like this, and she would lean in and say, in Kikuyu. And this is why I'm telling you, I would just know. She should have just whooped me, man. She should have.
But that's interesting. That's interesting.
There was so much talking.
Yeah.
And I'm a sanguine. Even now, I'm bubbly, I'm talkative. So as a child, I was a sunny, like whoop me so I can go play. But her, she was more the talking.
The understanding.
Right.
And it's interesting that you say that because and I keep thinking about what you just said, Bugo. Your second born got the best of you. But I'm wondering about our parents and how we impacted them and in what way, because whatever you went through as lastborn, as firstborn will definitely impact how you parent. And depending on how long you've had to parent, it's always going to be something that's not going to be maybe the same. You will try not to make it the same. Because me, I chapaing, the way I was chapward, like mfungwa. No. I just said no. Like it's, there were times, and then yesterday we were actually talking about it. My mother used to do that. She would get angry. She would get massively angry. And she would go on a tirade. That would end up with you being chapward or thrown on something. It completely triggered me, and she would, and later in therapy, when you're thinking about it, someone would tell you, think about what this woman has been through, right? You're working a non-existent job. You're working in the government. You're tired. You're coming back to your husband has not done anything. You put your bag down. The smallest thing that triggers you is who you will shout at. You're not going to shout at your husband. Yes, ameenda, mekuja anaona TV, whatever. You're in the kitchen. Who's going to be your first target? Household. Who's going to be your second target? The children. Who's going to be your fourth target? The teacher who has called and said, hey, Magi leo, amekuja na sijui nini. Kichapo ile utachapo hiyo siku.
Yes.
So those are the things that I used to wonder. Like, you've gotten the best of me because I've come from that. My child is not going to get what me I got. And so me, I'm wondering, because mine is different. Yours is more sanguine. You came from love and laughter. How are you like this? Like how are you, how do you manage? Because we have sisterhood, like I said. My friend tells me, I chop on my son. I beat him a good and proper one. And I gasped. I literally gasped. I was like, how? How do you chapa your son now? Because I can't imagine taking a stick to an 8-year-old boy. Me naona ni kama at some point he can come and beat you yourself. I don't know. Sorry. But I just imagine like there will be a day he'll be like, Mom.
Yeah, because that's how my son communicates. If I can't do it to you, then don't do it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. He's gotten the best of me because now I see it that way. My older son got the kichapo, and by the way, he was not even a bad kid. He was just what you're saying. You come home, you find, gosh, he has done, or he didn't do his homework. In fact, there's a time I found out he was hiding his kumon, the kumon papers. He was hiding them at the pool behind the tank. I'm like, imagine learn to just come and tell me, I don't want to do it. I don't like doing them, but hiding them behind the tank. I mean,
and you're paying,
and I'm paying for it. Yeah, but then I said we co-parent. Their father is quite against it. He's like, please. But then he would say, I can't say too much about it because I was not there and I can't control that environment. But I'd really rather you don't hit my children.
And you're the primary caregiver anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So eventually I had to take myself for a meeting and have a conversation, complete with writing pads and bottled water.
What does that look like, co-parenting for you?
Co-parenting, it is something. It is every day you wake up, you say, I shall be present and I shall make it about the kids, and that's it. So it has been a very interesting journey. Of course, the older the children get, the more involved he gets, because he kind of feels like when they're younger, all they need is mommy, mommy, mommy. So he's not that involved when they're smaller, but now he's like, I want to be part of everything. So we talk about anything and everything. We don't take anything for granted. We have a very big crisis of faith this week, which I'm dealing with. But I found that because their father is religious, I'm not. So we have that glaring at us all the time. But I found that my 14-year-old and I have become very good buddies. And I like that he's able to talk to me. He talks to me every day, 3 times a day if he can. The little one is starting to get into the relationship with daddy thing.
Little one, not little anymore.
He's 8. Not little. He's 8 going on 48.
So she just got out of postpartum.
Yes.
From our other conversation.
Yes. So apparently postpartum ends at 7 years.
I believe you.
So you're new. Now you're not postpartum.
You're a new mom.
Now you're just partum.
Newly single.
I love it.
You're free.
I can feel it. I can feel
shackles of motherhood.
I can feel that. And then also the child is changing. He's growing, and the conversations we're having with him now, I'm like, hiya, you're not throwing a tantrum. You're not making me feel some type of way, because my son can manipulate you. Anyway, so the co-parenting part has been a very interesting journey. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about how to even do it and making it about the kids and involving them and not making them pay for your choices. I think that is one conversation we have with their dad all the time. Like, we cannot make them suffer for the choices we made. So we have to put them front and center.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing all right. And sometimes, and what I like about their father is he's open to conversation. So when I call him out, he'll listen. I'll be like, we didn't need to go there with that one, or we didn't have that, or we didn't need to handle that. He has those that, depending on his day again, because he also works, he's all the way in Jamaica, so our hours are flip-flop. So sometimes when we catch him, we talk to him in the morning, it's early morning, it's busy, he has no time to give us 100%, and then we have to make appointments, and we block out Sunday. At this time when we are all fine, we are all, So it's very intense. It is work. It is work. But I can see it is working for the kids.
And you look healthy and happy and hearty.
Like and joyous. It's the first thing I say. You're glowing.
Well, please don't tell. Maybe there's a baby now.
Please.
And if that we say amen.
No.
I think I do want to say to both of you that as the child of a parent who was similar to what you're aspiring to and what you've been doing, it really does pay off. I mean, you will have clashes for sure. And I'm a firstborn daughter, and mothers and daughters don't always get along. But the one thing that has kept my mom and I tight is that we don't give up on the relationship. I've reached a point where I even blocked her. Like, we were in a really bad place for a couple of years, right? But my mom is like my person, right? Like, I'm going to call her after this. We meet for Mushene. She can call and say, I work at home. Do you have a client? I say, I just finished a session. What are you doing? I'm watching TV. Do you want to have lunch? And it's always like a collusion. Twendo happy? Like the askari of the places we frequent, like, Mekuja. The managers come to say hi, right? And I'm in my 40s. So I know when you're raising younger kids, I guess I'm just saying, I'm a bit further ahead as the child, not as the mother. It does pay off. It pays off that, like, my mom, I knew a whooping was on the menu, right? But I wasn't whooped a lot. So if I was to have children, I would actually have it on the menu. I just don't have to use it, right? Because that's how I was parented. It worked for me. But the thing I knew is that in my mother's house, she made it clear, I'm not raising a liar and I'm not raising a thief. So that thing you said about just come and tell me you don't want to do kumon instead of hiding it, that would have gotten a whooping. Because that was a violation of her, like the non-breakable rules. I was once suspended by Mr. Agak. I was reminding him before he passed away, may his soul rest in peace, and we had a good laugh. And I went home knowing I'm going to get like the whooping of my life. And she got me home and she said, go and eat something. We ate in silence. And then she asked, I want to know exactly what happened. And I told her exactly in detail, knowing that my life was over, because I really thought this woman will kill me today. And you know what she said to me? I've heard you. Go to bed and sleep before I change my mind, because I'm not going to beat you. And of course, I quickly scampered to bed. But what it taught me was that truth truly mattered to her. It wasn't like she'll forgive or not, but no lying, no stealing. What that has done is allow us to have a mother-daughter relationship. Right? And now if she's pushing my buttons, I can say, Mom, do you want to know the answer you want to know, or do you want me to tell you the truth?
I think it's important. And I think I'm somewhere in between with the older one and the younger one. So like you said, she, the younger one, has gotten the best of me. The opportunities, better healthcare, you can afford things.
Now you can even find the words to explain things better. Before,
so I am really, really, we laugh about this with my friend Jerry a lot. Gentle parenting it comes and it goes in waves. It depends on context.
Like, the parenting is there. The gentle is, we will see.
And that age group, the 8-year-olds push.
They push your boundaries.
You start gentle and then you're like, get out of my face.
So at some point, like, I even told my nanny, you made me the bad parent. Where now the child is afraid. Like, it's proper afraid. Like, I'm going to tell mama. And it's not like I chop her or anything. But the other day we went and I took and I went and asked her, what is this? A chopping thing. A chopping instrument. And so I was like, me, I've traumatized my child. Because we usually even had a chopper stick. Like, you're just like, this is a chopper stick. I will chopper you if you do things, But with the intent and the knowledge of saying, if you do this, you will get this.
Yes.
And my sister-in-law told me, that's just at least acknowledge that there's repercussions for bad behavior. And explain why.
Is it violence? That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Because also, who chapas you when you make a mistake? Exactly. Like now, I was like this morning, who beats me? Everybody said, no, so it's okay. So yeah, like to really say what other discipline can there be.
It was that discussions that you have to navigate as a older parent, as opposed to, even the older one, you don't even think, you just take it and nitakuchapa. Chapa, you leave and you move on with your life. Now you have more time. You have more thinking to explain, and you're in the same space. COVID, remember? So I feel so energized by having this conversation. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel acknowledged. That my life is going to get only better.
It's going to get better for sure.
Than us navigating.
And I look at their dad's life, and he was also raised pretty much in a single parent home. I see his relationship with his mother and I'm like, wow. But it was being raised. So he kind of also gives me pointers on, how about you do it this way or you do that. But they have an amazing relationship. I mean, so amazing that even for me to make that decision that I'm going to be sleeping in my son's bed with them once a week, the older one is not interested. But I told him, the day you say, all right, I will be in there and we shall cuddle and sleep, whatever it is. But if you need, I've taught him to always say, if he wants me, like what he says, I just want mommy time. And then I show up alone and we do mommy thing. So the last time I think he came home on holiday, for the weekend, and I was like, he came to my room and he just hovers, he's really not saying much. So I said, you want mommy time? He said, yes. So his father and his grandmother and his uncle, his father has a brother. When grandma is around, they sleep in the same bed. You know that now in African culture, guys are like, what? So the last time we were visiting, their grandmother lives in Fort Lauderdale, and, I was sleeping with the boys, and then their dad was sleeping with their grandmother, and that is how they always sleep when they're visiting each other.
Really?
Yes. And then they will talk through the night, and then one person will doze off, and and I said, that's how I want to grow old in my boys. I want to be able to just have nothing conversations and then talk into the night. I mean, how closer can you be than just lying there and, So I do that, and I've said I'm going to do that with my kids as long as they let me. So tonight I told you I have a date. Yeah.
For Mother's Day weekend.
And I'd like to thank you so much. As in, thank you so much. First of all, not only because of this amazing conversation, like you've opened up my eyes and given me hope and inspiration. So tuachie tu hapo. But also taking your time, because I know you've taken time out of your son's mommy. Look at her nodding. Your mommy's
he probably called me 40 times.
Probably
like swimming time is passing.
I'm so sorry, but we appreciate it. And when he watches this episode, maybe he can come and tell us his experience for today. Like, what were you doing?
What was he doing? Well, they went for haircuts. So then the agreement was once the haircuts are done, then I pick him up and
then you go.
Yeah.
So we really thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us new insights as to what, mature geriatric motherhood looks like.
By the way, I've told my gyna, if I get pregnant, not just my gyna, I work with my GP and my gyna is above us. I said, if either of you put the word geriatric, I said, you need to put a cover on that name. I know you doctors need to call me geriatric, but either of you calls me geriatric.
Let it not be my face.
And doctors are like, no, but it's a good thing.
It is an
opportunity. I have a friend who's just had 2 babies back to back, 45 and 46.
No
just
way.
First and second, yeah.
And I think it's also important, yes, for us to acknowledge that you are past a certain date or whatever.
You make me feel like Maziwa Mala.
No. What I'm saying is the doctor is acknowledging health complications.
Oh, fair enough.
Yes.
But if
past a certain,
he should know. If I find the term geriatric on my file, I'm billing him.
It is warranted.
He should know.
What I'm saying is there's a specific way, there's a respectful way to have those conversations. And give me,
actually, bembeleza me more. Yeah? Tell me, now.
They need to be more reassuring.
Yes.
Not.
And to be honest, my guy, Nami, he knows nibembeleze kidogo. Just tell me. Don't just tell me go get an ultrasound. You have to talk nicely to me.
Oh, go do your ultrasound yourself.
I know.
What does the ultrasound say?
I mean, really.
Yeah.
At least tell me, go and do this test and then come and we'll make a plan. At least I feel it's a way.
Yeah.
When you say geriatric, I'm about to go to NSSF to just pangal line for my retirement.
Your retirement funds as you have your baby. So thank you so much. Thanks Maggie for coming back again, and thanks Kabugo, and tutaonana palisi uonana.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. It's such a
really
pleasure.
Very, very welcome.